I thought the worst thing that could happen at our family dinner in Turkey was my mother-in-law's public humiliation. I was wrong. That night I discovered my husband was a thief. The warm, salty air of the Turkish coast was supposed to be a balm, a much-needed escape. My husband Liam and I had been planning this family trip for over a year. A week in a beautiful resort. A chance for his parents to relax, and for us all to reconnect. At least that was the idea. Looking back, I was so naive. The first few days had been a delicate dance of avoidance and forced smiles, a routine I had perfected over the 5 years I'd been with Liam. His mother, Carol, had a special talent for making me feel like an outsider, a charity case her perfect son had picked up out of pity. Let me set the scene for you. We were at this gorgeous open-air restaurant overlooking the Aegean Sea. The sky was a bruised purple and orange, fairy lights were twinkling in the olive trees, and the air was thick with the scent of grilled fish and oregano. Liam's father, Richard, was quietly enjoying his wine, a man who had long ago chosen peace over principle. Liam was trying to mediate a non-existent conversation, a nervous energy buzzing around him. And then there was Carol. She sat opposite me, her posture ramrod straight, a look of vague disapproval etched onto her face as she picked at a piece of bread. "This place must be frightfully expensive," she began, not looking at anyone in particular, but the comment was aimed squarely at me. It always was. "I do hope you two aren't stretching yourselves too thin for our sake." I offered a tight smile. "We wanted to treat you. You both deserve it." "That's sweet of you, dear," she said, her tone anything but. But we all know who the "we" is in that sentence. Liam has always been so generous. A familiar knot of dread tightened in my stomach. This was her favorite game, erasing me from the equation. In her mind, everything we had, every success, every nice thing, was solely Liam's achievement. I was just the pretty accessory he was kind enough to drag along. Liam, bless his conflict-averse heart, jumped in. "Mom, we're a team. We both wanted to do this." Carol just hummed, a dismissive little sound that grated on my every nerve. She turned her attention to my dress. "Is that new, dear? It's very vibrant. Did Liam pick it out for you?" "I bought it myself, actually," I said, my voice a little too sharp. "I have a job, you know." It was the wrong thing to say. I knew it the second the words left my mouth. Her eyes narrowed. "Oh, of course. Your little online shop. How is that going? Are you still selling those knitted things?" My little online shop, as she called it, was a boutique business I had built from the ground up. It specialized in high-end handmade leather goods, not knitted things, and it was doing incredibly well. Well enough, in fact, that it had recently out-earned Liam's salary as an architect for the first time, but I never mentioned that. It would only make things worse. Flaunting success was, in Carol's world, the height of poor taste, unless it was her son's success, of course. The rest of the meal passed in a tense, simmering silence, punctuated by Carol's occasional passive-aggressive digs. She'd compliment the wine, then sigh dramatically about the cost. She'd talk about a friend's daughter who had married a surgeon, making a point to mention their 6-bedroom house. Each comment was a carefully sharpened dart, and I was her personal dartboard. I could feel Liam squirming beside me, wanting to say something, but paralyzed by a lifetime of placating his mother. Finally, the waiter arrived with the bill, placing it discreetly in the center of the table. Before Liam could even reach for it, I put my hand on top of the leather folder. "I've got this," I said, smiling at Liam. A small act of defiance. It was like I'd thrown a grenade onto the table. Carol's fork clattered onto her plate. She stared at my hand on the bill as if I'd just produced a live scorpion. Richard froze, his wine glass halfway to his lips. Liam's eyes went wide. "What did you just say?" Carol's voice was dangerously low. I said, "I've got this," I repeated, keeping my tone light. "It's my pleasure." She let out a short, ugly laugh. It wasn't a sound of amusement. It was a sound of pure contempt. She looked around the table, at her husband, at her son, and then her gaze landed on me, cold and hard as stone. Her voice, sharp and loud enough to cut through the chatter of the entire restaurant, landed like a slap. My God, the audacity. You work your little hobby for a few hours a week and suddenly you think you can play the big shot. Don't be ridiculous. Liam is paying for this. Liam pays for everything. You have brought nothing to this family but debt and distraction. You are a mooch, plain and simple. The whole world seemed to stop. The clink of glasses, the murmur of other diners, the gentle lapping of the waves, it all faded into a deafening silence. I could feel dozens of eyes turning towards our table. My face was burning, a hot, creeping shame that started in my chest and spread to the tips of my ears. Liam was stammering, trying to form a sentence, but no words came out. Richard was just staring down at his plate, wishing the ground would swallow him whole. And as I sat there, frozen in my chair with every eye in the place on me, only one thought echoed in my head. My mother-in-law loudly declared at our dinner in Turkey that I was a mooch, although she had absolutely no idea who had actually paid for her 5-star hotel room, her business-class flight, and the very meal she was eating. For a long moment the world was a photograph. Carol's sneer of triumph, Richard's vacant stare into his wine-glass, Liam's mouth opening and closing like a fish, and me, pinned by the glares and whispers of strangers. The humiliation was a physical thing, a hot, suffocating blanket. But then something inside me snapped. The heat of shame didn't extinguish. It hardened. It forged itself into a cold, sharp point of anger. I had spent 5 years swallowing my pride, biting my tongue, and making myself small to appease this woman, all for the sake of a husband who stood by and let it happen. Not anymore. My movements were slow, deliberate. I drew my hand back from the bill folder. Liam finally found his voice, a pathetic, pleading whisper. "Mom, come on. This isn't the time or the place." He wasn't defending me. He was managing the scene. He was embarrassed by the volume, not the content. "Oh, so there is a time and place for you to admit she's a gold digger?" Carol shot back, her voice still ringing with theatrical indignation. That was it. I calmly picked up my purse from the floor and placed it on my lap. I didn't look at Liam. I looked directly at Carol, my expression as placid as the sea behind her. "You know, Carol," I said, my voice cutting through the tension with surprising clarity. "You're absolutely right. There has been a mooch on this trip. But it isn't me." I unzipped my purse and pulled out my phone. My fingers moved across the screen with practiced ease, opening my email, then my banking app. Richard looked up, a flicker of alarm in his eyes. Liam's face was a mask of confusion and panic. "Honey, what are you doing? Just leave it. We'll talk about it later." "No, Liam," I said, not taking my eyes off his mother. "We'll talk about it now. I think your mother deserves some clarity on her financial situation." I turned the phone screen towards her. On it was the booking confirmation for the flights. 2 business-class tickets for Mr. and Mrs. Richard and Carol Davies, and 2 economy plus for Liam and me. Total charge, a little over $9,000. Payment method, my personal Visa card. Carol squinted at the screen, her bravado faltering. "What is this? Some kind of doctored statement? Liam would never let you book the flights." "Wouldn't he?" I said, swiping to the next screen. It was the confirmation for our hotel. A 2-bedroom, sea-view suite. 1 bedroom for them, 1 for us. Paid in full, 3 months ago. Again, my name, my card. "I booked this suite so you could have your privacy and your own balcony, Carol. I thought it would be a nice gesture. I could see the gears turning in her head, the denial warring with the undeniable proof in front of her. Her face was turning a blotchy red. "Liam must have transferred you the money," she insisted, her voice losing its booming confidence. "He's just protecting his assets. It's a smart way to manage things." This was my last test for Liam. I looked at my husband, my silent gaze pleading with him. "Tell her. Just tell her the truth. Stand by me, just this once." He looked from my face to his mother's. I saw the conflict in his eyes, the frantic desire to appease her, to make the horribly uncomfortable situation just go away. He opened his mouth, and for a heart-stopping second, I thought he was going to do it. But he didn't. He looked at me, his expression turning to one of frustration, of anger. "Okay, enough," he said, his voice low and sharp. "You've made your point. Now put the phone away. You're embarrassing my mother." The words hit me harder than her insult ever could. Embarrassing his mother. Not defending his wife. Not setting the record straight. He was angry at me for exposing the lie, not at her for telling it. In that one moment, 5 years of marriage dissolved into dust. The man I loved, the partner I thought I had, wasn't there. In his place was a little boy, terrified of Mommy's disapproval. The cold anger inside me solidified into a single, resolute decision. I smiled, a real, genuine smile for the first time all night, though it must have looked terrifying. It felt like a mask cracking. I put my phone away and pulled my wallet from my purse, retrieving my credit card. I placed it neatly into the bill folder. "You're right, Liam," I said, my voice eerily calm. "I've been terribly rude." I stood up, my chair scraping softly on the stone floor. I looked down at the three of them, a perfect little family tableau of dysfunction. I looked at the beautiful sea, the twinkling lights, this dream vacation I had planned and paid for, this dream that had just become a nightmare. "My apologies, Carol. Please, enjoy the rest of your dinner." Then I turned and walked away from the table, leaving my credit card, my husband, and my entire life as I knew it behind me. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I was never going back. As I reached the edge of the restaurant, I heard Liam call my name, a note of panic in his voice now. I ignored it. I kept walking, out into the warm Turkish night, when my phone buzzed in my hand. It was a text from a number I didn't recognize. My blood ran cold as I read the 2 short sentences. "I know you paid for everything. Your husband is a coward, but you need to know what he's been hiding from you." My steps faltered on the cobblestone path. The warm night air suddenly felt chilly, raising goosebumps on my arms. I looked back towards the restaurant, a glowing bubble of light and noise that now felt a million miles away. Liam was on his feet, looking around frantically, but he hadn't followed me. Of course he hadn't. He was still managing the scene. I stared down at my phone, the anonymous text glowing like a toxic beacon in the dark. "I know you paid for everything. Your husband is a coward, but you need to know what he's been hiding from you." Who could have sent this? And what else could Liam possibly be hiding? My mind raced. A friend? A colleague? It had to be someone who knew our situation, someone who knew about my business, about Carol, about Liam's spinelessness. A second text came through before I could process the first. "Go to the hotel business center. Log into the main account for Liam's firm. The password is his mother's birthday, followed by Mummy's boy. Check the Project Alpha folder." The password was so pathetic, so unbelievably Liam, that I knew it had to be real. A wave of nausea rolled over me. His mother's birthday. I didn't even need to think about it. The date was seared into my brain from years of having to buy the perfect, unappreciated gift. I turned away from the path leading to the beach and headed towards the main hotel lobby. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. Part of me wanted to just go to my room, pack my bags, and disappear. But I couldn't. I had to know. The message felt like a lifeline, a key to a truth I hadn't even realized was being kept from me. The business center was empty, the only sound the low hum of the computers. I sat down at a terminal, my hands trembling slightly as I typed in the web address for Liam's architecture firm. The login page appeared. With a deep, steadying breath, I typed in the password. Access granted. My stomach plummeted. I navigated to the shared drive, found the Project Alpha folder, and clicked. It was filled with financial documents, spreadsheets, invoices, and bank transfer records. It took me a few minutes to understand what I was looking at, but when I did, the breath left my body in a rush. Project Alpha was the firm's biggest account, a massive luxury condo development, and for the past 2 years, Liam had been systematically siphoning money from it. Not just small amounts, hundreds of thousands of dollars. He was creating fake invoices for shell companies, approving payments, and then routing the money to an offshore account. The account was in his name, and his name alone. But it was the transfer records that made me feel truly sick. I found dozens of payments made from that secret account directly to his parents. Monthly transfers to Richard and Carol, labeled living expenses. A massive lump sum paid out 6 months ago, with the memo, mortgage cleared. He hadn't just been indulging his mother's lavish tastes. He had paid off their entire house. He had been stealing from his company to fund their lifestyle, all while letting his mother call me a mooch for buying dinner. He had stood there and let her humiliate me, knowing he was a common thief who had put everything we had, my business, our home, our future, at risk with his fraud. Suddenly, another set of documents caught my eye. They were emails. Panicked, furious emails between Liam and one of the junior partners at his firm. Richard, but not his father. This was Richard Jr., Richie, his cousin, the one family member who had always been kind to me, who had sent me a message of congratulations when my business took off. The sender of the anonymous text. The emails detailed Richie's discovery of the fraud and his pleas for Liam to come clean before he ruined the entire firm. Liam's replies were full of pathetic excuses and promises to pay it all back, promises that were clearly empty. I didn't hesitate. I logged into my email and forwarded everything to Richie. The emails, the spreadsheets, the offshore account details. My message was simple. I know. Do what you have to do. Then, I opened the hotel booking on my phone. With 3 sharp taps, I canceled the remainder of our stay. The confirmation email arrived instantly. I forwarded it to Liam with the subject line. Checkout is at 11 a.m. Good luck. Finally, I called the credit card company. I reported my card as stolen, the one I had so foolishly left on the dinner table. I explained that it was currently in the possession of my soon-to-be ex-husband and his parents at a restaurant, and that any further charges were fraudulent. I stood up from the computer, feeling strangely light. The anger and humiliation had burned away, leaving behind a cold, hard certainty. I walked out of the business center, through the opulent lobby, and out into the night. I didn't go back to the suite. I walked down to the beach, took my shoes off, and felt the sand between my toes. The sea whispered on the shore. I booked myself a one-way flight home for the next morning on my phone. To a new home, a new life. I knew there would be a storm waiting for me. Divorce lawyers, financial fallout. Liam would likely face prison time. His parents would lose the house he had stolen for them. Their carefully constructed world built on lies and my silence was about to come crashing down. And as the first tears finally fell, they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of relief. The price of that Turkish dinner was devastatingly high, but it had bought me the most valuable thing in the world, my freedom.